Part I. The uncrossable gulf. The truth of our innate solitude. If you are alone, you belong entirely to yourself. If you are accompanied by even one companion, you belong only half to yourself. Leonardo da Vinci. This statement, like a forgotten key unearthed from an ancient scroll, travels through 5 centuries of dust and time to be gently inserted into the deepest, most untouched lock of our modern soul. It is not merely a simple social warning. It is a profound insight into the very essence of human consciousness, an unsettling yet unavoidable ultimate truth. You will never be completely understood. Allow me to repeat that, for the weight of this sentence is worthy of a lifetime of digestion. You, as a unique conscious entity, will never, ever be thoroughly, completely, and flawlessly understood by another person, not by the intimate partner you consider the other half of your soul. Even if you spend every waking and sleeping moment together, sharing the same bed, breathing the same air, your dreams remain separate, sovereign kingdoms. When you attempt to describe a nightmare that left your heart pounding, you are limited to the impoverished tools of vocabulary, the clumsy art of metaphor. The fear you speak of, once encoded by language and decoded by your partner's experience, is no longer the raw, bone-chilling coldness of your inner reality. They may offer an embrace, a gentle word of comfort, but they can never truly dive into the abyss of your consciousness and experience firsthand the darkness that consumed you. Your love is the distant calling of 2 lighthouses in the vast, dark night. Your beams of light may intersect. Your warmth may be felt across the water, but the foundations of these lighthouses stand forever on their own isolated reefs. Not by the parents who gave you life. They witnessed your first cry, your first stumbling steps, your first utterance of mama and dada. They cherish every photograph of your growth, know every embarrassing story, and every moment of glory from your childhood. They might exclaim, "How could I not know you? You are flesh of my flesh." And yet, what they know is an extension of your role as their child, an image shaped by their expectations, their memories, their profound love. The unspoken ambitions festering in your heart, the doubts that gnaw at you in the dead of night, the struggles and desires that conflict with their values, these remain, to them, an unknown territory shrouded in a thick fog. They see the lush leaves of the tree that is you, basking in the sunlight, but they cannot perceive the complex, gnarled root system buried in the dark soil, where your true nourishment and deepest wounds are entangled, and certainly not by the confidant, the soulmate with whom you share your deepest secrets. You may have sung drunkenly together, wept on each other's shoulders, and supported one another at life's crossroads. You may share inside jokes, despise the same people, and hold startlingly similar views of the world. But when you try to share a subtle, ineffable moment, for instance, the feeling that washed over you at dusk as you watched a single leaf fall, a complex emotion blending melancholy, serenity, and the passage of time, you use all your power to describe it, framing it with words like zen or wabi-sabi. But what is transmitted to them is ultimately a filtered, simplified concept. They can understand your feeling, but they cannot replicate your complete state of being in that moment. Your friendship is like 2 planets orbiting on their own distinct paths. You may feel each other's gravity, you may even shine in tandem at certain times, but you will always have your own cores, burning with different fires. Each of us is a self-contained universe. Is your red the same as my red? We are taught from childhood that grass is green and the sky is blue, but who can guarantee that what you perceive as blue is not what another experiences as green? This is the hard problem of qualia, and it starkly reveals the absolute privacy of subjective experience. The unique sweet-sour tang on your tongue when you bite into a strawberry, the ineffable resonance in your soul when you hear a Bach cello suite, the grief that feels as if the universe itself has collapsed when you lose a loved one. All these are your exclusive, non-transferable, unshareable qualia. They are the sole audience and the sole actor in the theater of your consciousness. You can attempt to broadcast the contents of this drama through art, through conversation, through a touch, but it is ultimately a compressed and transcoded signal, a blurry copy of the original. What the other person receives is always a version rendered on the display of their own mind, a recreation blended with their own experiences, biases, and emotions. To acknowledge this is not to descend into pessimism or cynicism. It is not a verdict on the futility of human relationships, nor is it a promotion of nihilistic despair. On the contrary, it is the first step toward true freedom and profound connection. Though this step requires us to venture into the chilling wilderness of what we call solitude, this is a fundamental reality of being human that we must face alone. And at the far edge of this wilderness, there may lie a strength and a treasure we have never imagined. Part 2. Echoes from the Abyss. The solitary wisdom of three philosophical giants. When we finally summon the courage to confront this innate solitude, we discover we are not the first travelers on this path. Throughout history, the greatest and most sensitive souls have already left deep footprints in this intellectual no man's land. They did not crumble in the face of this loneliness. Instead, they distilled from it philosophies that could temper the soul. Let us approach three giants who stared into the abyss, Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, and Jung, and listen to the echoes they brought back from the depths of solitude. First, there is Arthur Schopenhauer, the master of pessimism. He famously called life a tragic illusion. This was not mere cynicism, but a conclusion drawn from his insight into the core engine of human existence: the blind, insatiable will to live. Schopenhauer argued that each of us is a slave to this primal force, driven by an endless succession of desires. Our consciousness is like a solitary prisoner adrift on the tempestuous sea of this will, forever confined within the cage of our own subjective experience. He observed that our suffering stems largely from the mistaken belief that we can fill our inner void and quell the unquenchable fire of desire with external people or things. We crave love. We crave understanding. We crave to see our value reflected in the eyes of others. But this, in Schopenhauer's view, is the very heart of the tragic illusion. For others are also prisoners of their own will to live. Their reactions to you are, in essence, projections of their own needs and desires. To expect a fulfilling meal from someone who is equally starving is a paradox in itself. Thus, Schopenhauer's philosophy is not a call for surrender, but for a turning inward. True liberation, he believed, lies not in seeking illusory, fleeting satisfaction from the outside world, but in introspective contemplation. Through artistic immersion and ascetic practice, one can temporarily quiet the demands of the will. The prerequisite for all of this is the acknowledgement and acceptance of the isolation of consciousness. Only when you cease the futile search for external validation can you begin to truly examine your own inner world. Schopenhauer's solitude is a clear-eyed, tragically colored wisdom that tells us, stop expecting others to save you, for they cannot even save themselves. Your only way out lies within. Next, we encounter Friedrich Nietzsche, who wielded his philosophy like a hammer to shatter all old idols. Nietzsche took Schopenhauer's insight to a more challenging, provocative level. He saw the terror that solitude induced, and how this terror shaped entire societies. He used a sharp term to describe this collective flight from loneliness: herd morality. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche proclaimed, "No shepherd in one herd. Everyone wants the same. Everyone is the same. Whoever feels differently goes voluntarily into the madhouse."
This sentence is a thunderclap, exploding in the soul of anyone who has ever tried to use conformity to mask their inner unease.
The madhouse, for Nietzsche, was not a literal institution, but the state of being marginalized and branded an outcast for daring to think and feel independently. He observed that most people, to escape the crushing weight of solitude, willingly surrender their individuality and judgment to become part of the collective. They adopt universally accepted values and live lives of monotonous uniformity. Nietzsche called the force that pulls humanity down toward this comfortable mediocrity the spirit of gravity. It makes you fear being different, fear being isolated. It shackles you to the ground with the incantations of "you should" and "everyone else is doing it." The figure Nietzsche celebrated, the Übermensch, overman, is precisely the one who dares to defy this spirit of gravity, who embraces solitude, and in that solitude, reevaluates all values to create their own meaning for life. For Nietzsche, solitude was not a condition to be cured, but a necessary crucible for the birth of a great soul. It is the trial ground of the hero, the forge of the creator. Only in absolute solitude can you escape the noise of the herd and hear your own truest voice, completing the transformation from the camel, passively bearing burdens, to the lion, actively rebelling, and finally to the child, purely creating. Nietzsche's solitude is a powerful, ascendant, creative force. It screams a choice: be devoured by the crowd or transcend in solitude. Finally, we turn from philosophy to depth psychology to Carl Jung. If Schopenhauer and Nietzsche mapped the philosophical landscape of solitude, Jung provided the psychological compass to navigate it. Jung, too, deeply understood the isolation of consciousness, but he was more concerned with how we could live with this isolation and transform it into an opportunity for growth. Jung's core concept of individuation is the process of becoming a whole, unique, and indivisible individual. At the heart of this process is the integration of our shadow, the repressed, denied, and unacknowledged parts of our personality, our fears, our illicit desires, our vulnerabilities, our darkest aspects. Jung observed that we fear being alone in large part because when the external noise fades, we are forced to confront our own shadow. In a crowd, we can easily project our shadow onto others. We might detest a colleague's arrogance because we've repressed our own ambition to be noticed. We might idolize a celebrity's perfection because we're projecting our own yearning for an ideal self. We maintain a seemingly bright and whole self-image this way, but the price is a growing estrangement from our true selves. The journey of individuation, therefore, must begin in solitude. Only when we are alone can we retract these projections and face the shadow within, acknowledging that it too is a part of us. Jung wrote, "Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself, or from holding certain views which others find inadmissible." This inability to communicate often stems from our own inability to face those important or inadmissible parts of ourselves. Thus, Jung's solitude is a healing, integrative force, a path to wholeness. It is a stern but compassionate guide that leads us into the depths of our own psyche to recover forgotten treasures. It teaches us that before you can truly connect with another, you must first connect with the entirety of yourself, a self that embraces both light and shadow. The thoughts of these three giants act as a prism, refracting the seemingly singular, pale light of solitude into a spectrum of tragic clarity, creative passion, and integrative wisdom. Together, they point to a subversive conclusion: the very thing we desperately flee may be our only salvation. Part 3. The illusion of relationship: why we often feel more alone in love and company. Having explored the philosophical and psychological roots of solitude, let us now zoom in on the concrete landscapes of daily life to examine a perplexing paradox. Why is it that in our most intimate relationships, in the midst of bustling crowds, we often feel a deeper, more piercing loneliness? This is the work of the illusion of relationship. The root of this illusion lies in our conflation of connection with fusion. We mistakenly believe that a profound relationship means the complete synchronization of two minds, emotions, and experience is a seamless union where you are in me and I am in you. We plunge into love, friendship, and family with this unrealistic expectation, only to find ourselves bruised and disappointed by repeated misunderstandings. Imagine an argument with your partner over something trivial. In your mind, you are expressing anxiety and insecurity about the future. In their ears, however, you are accusing them of incompetence and irresponsibility. You use the same language, yet you seem to be broadcasting on two entirely different frequencies. Language, our primary tool for communication, now appears painfully inadequate. It acts like a lossy compression algorithm, taking the rich, three-dimensional tapestry of your inner emotional experience and flattening it into a single, thin word: disappointment, anger, The other person receives this word and decompresses it using their own database of experiences, resulting in a distorted version far removed from your original intent. The deeper issue is that we are often not in a relationship with a real person, but with a phantom other of our own creation. This phantom is an amalgam of our ideals, needs, fears, and unfulfilled expectations, which we project onto our partner. We fall in love with the courage in them that we ourselves lack. We depend on a sense of security they provide that we never received in childhood. We turn them into a character meant to fulfill a role in our inner drama, overlooking the fact that they are, in themselves, a complex individual with their own consciousness, their own will, and their own shadow. When the real person inevitably fails to perfectly play the role we've assigned them, when their actions deviate from our script, a colossal sense of loss washes over us. We feel betrayed, misunderstood, and alone. But this loneliness does not stem from their failure to meet our expectations, but from the fact that we never truly saw them in the first place. We were merely dancing with a shadow of our own making, and when the shadow dissipates, we find ourselves alone on the stage. This illusion of relationship is even more pervasive in social settings. Picture a lively party, filled with clinking glasses and boisterous laughter. You are in the middle of it, diligently playing the part of a witty, sociable person. You share anecdotes, chime in on conversations, and exchange smiles and business cards. On the surface, you are surrounded by people. You are connected. Yet, when the night is over and you are driving home alone, does a profound emptiness wash over you like a tide. This is because, for those few hours, you presented a carefully curated social persona, a version of yourself customized to gain approval and a sense of belonging. Your genuine fatigue, your anxieties, your confusion about the future all were carefully hidden behind this mask. You feared that to remove it would be to appear out of place, to be rejected by the cheerful collective. So, you traded inner authenticity for superficial connection. You were in a crowd, yet more alone than ever because no one saw the real you behind the mask. Social media amplifies this illusion to an extreme. We curate our feeds, posting life's moments optimized by filters and clever captions. We count likes, respond with emojis, and create the appearance of being widely admired and connected. We immerse ourselves in the fleeting pleasure of these shallow connections, only to find they are like fast food, unable to provide genuine spiritual nourishment. One like cannot replace a deep embrace. 100 comments cannot substitute for one heart-to-heart conversation. We have hundreds of friends, yet in a moment of midnight crisis, we may find there is no one we can actually call. We use a massive volume of fragile digital connections to escape facing the one true yet terrifying connection, the connection with ourselves. We fear silence. We fear being alone, because in that quiet, all the issues we try to escape through relationships and socializing will surface. We must confront our imperfections, our desires, and the existential dread of our own finitude and potential meaninglessness. This is the stark truth of relationships. You can never complete yourself through another person. Any attempt to base the entirety of your self-worth on a relationship is doomed to lead to disappointment and a deeper solitude. A relationship is not a filler for the void within you. It should be a gravitational dance between two whole, independent universes. It is not fusion, but resonance. And the only path to achieving this healthy, profound resonance is to first bravely return to your own isolated island, to explore its every inch, to map its complete geography, and to become its true sovereign. Until you learn to be at peace with your own solitude, all your connections with others may be just another cycle in this illusion of relationship. Part 4. From Prison to Fortress, Embracing Solitude to Forge True Strength. Thus far, we have painted a seemingly bleak picture. We are confined to the isolated islands of our consciousness, incapable of being truly understood, while our cherished relationships are often built upon illusions. This sounds like an inescapable, desperate predicament. However, just as alchemists believed that gold could be found in the humblest of metals, the philosophical and psychological giants we've discussed were convinced that within this darkest of truths lies the path to the most brilliant freedom. This path is about transforming solitude from a punitive prison into a protective fortress.
This transformation does not happen automatically. It requires our active, conscious practice and forging. It is not about enduring solitude, but about utilizing it. It is a form of spiritual discipline, the art of turning the weight of existence into the power of life. Step 1. Deliberately create a sacred space for solitude. In our modern era, relentlessly bombarded by information and noise, solitude has become a luxury. Our smartphones, social media feeds, and never-ending work notifications conspire to rob us of every moment we might spend with ourselves. Therefore, you must defend your time of solitude as you would defend your territory. This could be an hour of quiet sitting in the early morning before the world awakens, an afternoon with all electronic devices turned off, accompanied only by a book and a cup of tea, or a weekend hike, alone in nature, feeling the wind and the sun. This space is sacred, meaning it is inviolable. Its purpose is not to accomplish a task, but simply to be. In this space, you are not escaping the world. You are returning to yourself. You are allowing the voice of your inner world to gradually emerge from the external clamor. Step 2. Transform solitude into a laboratory for self-exploration. Once you begin to inhabit this solitary space, the repressed emotions, forgotten memories, and denied desires will start to surface like chemical reagents in a laboratory. This may feel uncomfortable, anxious, or even painful. This is normal. This is your shadow beckoning to you. At this point, you can use certain tools to engage with it. Jung's active imagination is a powerful technique. Close your eyes, allow an image or emotion to arise naturally, and then interact with it as you would with a real person, asking where it comes from and what it wants to tell you. Alternatively, you can use the most ancient method of all, writing. Take a notebook, and without judgment, pour out every thought and feeling that comes to mind. You will be astonished to discover the hidden patterns, conflicts, and wisdom that lie beneath the seemingly chaotic stream of words. In this way, solitude ceases to be an empty void and becomes a laboratory teeming with data about yourself. You are no longer passively drowned by your emotions, but are actively becoming the observer and explorer of your own inner world. Step 3. Forge self, worth in the crucible of solitude. When we no longer depend on the approval of others to define ourselves, true strength begins to emerge. In the crucible of solitude, you must learn to generate your own sense of worth. This means reclaiming the power of judgment from the external world and placing it firmly within yourself. Begin by asking yourself fundamental questions. Setting aside the expectations of parents, the gaze of a partner, the standards of society, who do I truly want to be? What activities ignite genuine passion and fulfillment in me? What are my core values? This process is like a blacksmith forging a sword. You must use the flames of solitude to heat yourself, and the hammer of self-reflection to strike repeatedly, chipping away the impurities that do not belong to you, the internalized shoulds of others. Each strike will be met with pain and doubt, but eventually you will forge a sword that is uniquely yours, gleaming with its own distinct light. This sword is your inner authority. When you possess this inner authority, you will accept praise with grace, but not become dependent on it. And you will listen to criticism with care, but not be crushed by it. For the foundation of your worth is now securely established within your own heart, not in the fickle opinions of others. Step 4. Build authentic bridges from a place of wholeness. Here lies a beautiful paradox. It is precisely when you have truly accepted your own solitude, when you no longer desperately need others, that you gain the ability to form the deepest, most authentic connections. Because now you approach a relationship not from a place of lack and fear, but from a place of abundance and choice. You no longer need the other person to complete you or to play a role in your inner drama. You are able to truly see them as an independent, whole individual, to appreciate their light and accept their shadow. Your connection is no longer two broken semicircles trying to form a fragile whole. It is two complete circles, maintaining their own integrity while resonating in harmony. You can share your world freely, not to seek understanding or validation, but simply as a sincere gift. And, in turn, you can listen to their world with an open, non-judgmental heart. You know that the unbridgeable gulf of consciousness will always exist between you, but this no longer fills you with despair. Instead, it fills you with a sense of awe and gratitude for every limited, approximate moment of understanding you are able to share. Conclusion. You came into this world alone, and you will leave it alone. This is an unalterable fate. Between these 2 points of absolute solitude lies the journey of your life. You can choose to continue distracting yourself with endless socializing, superficial relationships, and constant entertainment to live as a refugee, forever fleeing your own homeland, seeking temporary shelter in the worlds of others. Or, you can choose to turn around and walk bravely into the depths of your own heart, into the land that seems barren, the land we call solitude. There you will find not an emptiness, but your shadows and your treasures, your fears and your greatest strengths. When you are no longer afraid to be alone, the world can no longer imprison you. When you have made peace with yourself, you will have the capacity to make true peace with the world. The final choice, therefore, is yours. Will you continue to wander as a refugee in the crowd, or will you, in solitude, find the path home? Will you allow solitude to be your lifelong prison, or will you forge it into your impregnable fortress? The answer, and only you can find it, lies waiting in the silence.